a royal, an Oscar, a princess, and a celebrated national British icon. Oh yes, that's all in today's story. As ever, let me explain. Morning, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Lovely to see you, as I say. Well, have a nice wave. Are you keeping all right? You know, when I find out these stories, particularly when I've interviewed people as well, I'm always fascinated by the background of this stuff. I was saying to someone the other day that, you know, what's more interesting, I find, is how these certain things were created. You know, for instance, I don't know if you know this, but Hedy Lamarr, the beautiful MGM star of the 1940s, well, she was very instrumental in making sure that she got to see Louis B. Mayer, but not at Culver City in Hollywood. Oh no, she made sure that she travelled on the very same boat as him, and then even popping up to the Savoy Hotel in London, knowing he was having dinner there, where she staged an entrance. The rest, as they say, is history. And a lot of people suggest that's exactly what you have to do in the world of show business, whether indeed it includes royalty or not. As I've said, so many stars were absolutely delighted and thrilled to appear in front of our brilliant monarchy because it did so much for their wonderful careers. Some just became friends, like this man, the brilliant playwright, raconteur, wit, all-round social butterfly, Sir Noel Coward. Now, before my time, but as many people know, I was lucky enough to meet and work with people who knew him well, including my good friend, Sir Michael Caine. Yes, they appeared together in The Italian Job, I think, if you remember. And what was fascinating about that was, you know, Noel was what he was. You know, a cynic, a sort of ruthless in many respects, but that's apparently what endeared him to the late Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth. You know, she liked his sort of rabid wit and all that sort of stuff. But long before all of that really took hold in the 1940s, he made a movie which in fact earned him an Academy Award. Oh yes, and I take this on board, right chums, think about this. An Academy Award right in the middle of the war. And the movie, of course, is the brilliant, if you've never seen it, I believe most of it, in fact, is up on YouTube for free, In Which We Serve from 1942. Now, what was interesting about this was this particular movie was written, directed, produced, arranged and starred Noel Coward, right? This is the thing about Noel. He did most of the things himself. But what I also think is interesting is the fact that, you know, you've got to look at it from his perspective. He knew exactly what he wanted, so why not do most of it yourself? Makes perfect sense, right? Here's where this gets interesting though, because this particular story was based upon a story that he was told to him about the Battle of Crete from his good friend, Lord Louis Mountbatten. That's right, Louis Mountbatten, the excellent raconteur and good friend of celebrities, and naturally a wonderful attachment to the British monarchy. And when you think about it, we forget that Lord Louis was almost, you know, shall we say, also instrumental in the pairing of Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. You know, very, very instrumental indeed. Now, Lord Louis, as you know, loved the limelight. I mean, I've told you before about how he appeared on This Is Your Life and Stars on Sunday and stuff like that. But he, even way back in the 40s and way back in the 20s, he was associated with all the big Max Sennett, Charlie Chaplin silent stars. He knew the value of media, no two ways about that. Now, where this gets really interesting is because of the time lapse of when the movie came out in England and when it came out in America, he then didn't get the Academy Award until 1943. And as I said, this is the very height of the war. Now imagine this, you know, the Queen and of course the King, King George, are still residing at Buckingham Palace. A lot of the time the princesses Margaret and Elizabeth were out at Windsor for their own safety. But the King and Queen said, no, we're staying in the heart of London. We know the dangers other people are going through. We have to live with them too. And I thought that was very commendable when you look back in history. However, Lord Louis had a very clever idea. Oh yes, you see, with the Academy Award still going strong, he thought this would be a very good sort of, how can we put this, friendly relations marketing idea. You have to remember that In Which We Serve really was something of a spirit lifter, a propaganda film to raise, well, hopes and spirits of everybody over here in the United Kingdom and all the rest of those wonderful people that supported us during that very difficult time. No two ways about it. So Noel, along along with Lord Louis, concocted the idea of, well, why not take along one of the young princesses? And the ideal choice would have been, of course, Princess Elizabeth, the future Queen at some point. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because apparently this was very much into the machinery of going forward. And then it was decided that they couldn't risk the fact of travelling over there into the United States of America, even for such a spectacular Academy Award event. And sadly, if you check out the record, seemingly it all sort of fell apart. But even then, it wasn't really gone through, because Lord Louis thought, well, once the Academy Award comes back over here to the United Kingdom, perhaps Noel and the Princess Elizabeth, alongside Lord Louis, could perhaps pose with a picture. That never materialised either. Not quite sure why, but what a fascinating story about what might have been, with Queen Elizabeth at such a young age touching the epicentre of Hollywood, all thanks to one of our most celebrated playwrights, the brilliant Sir Noel Coward. They remained good friends until his passing in 1973. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.